Well, is it wrong to ask a pregnant woman whether she intends to return to work? Well, apparently so, after an employment tribunal ruled that one NHS worker had been discriminated against when her boss nodded towards her stomach when asking about her future plans. And another colleague told her she had planned her pregnancy pretty well ahead of an office restructure. So is it OK to ask someone when are you coming back to work after having a baby? Certainly from a boss perspective, I guess they do kind of have to have a rough idea. But is it appropriate to ask, Gia?
Oh, my word. I mean, in that situation, you just think you'd get to the point... If someone like that, I just wouldn't say anything to them about anything because, you know, it sounded to me like it was just a bit of office banter. But I think it depends on the circumstances. If you work for a small business and you're going off on maternity leave, I don't see why it's not OK for your boss to just sort of say, look, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the birth and, you know, you can change your mind, but do you have any idea? Because they've got to get cover. You know, they can't just have a vacancy. They've got to get cover. And then for the next person, they might want to know, well, am I staying for a year? Am I staying for a month? You know, there's a sort of a knock-on effect to it. And I think you can't be unreasonable about that. But, you know, if it was going to be abused and the boss is saying, well, you need to tell me now and putting great pressure on you, that's a different thing. But I think having a conversation with somebody about what their plan, what you hope your plans are, if you're not being held to it, what's wrong with that?
Well, I think I kind of see it from both sides. I think definitely as someone who's running a business and as a boss, you do want to have a rough idea. And like you say, some people do have, right, I know I want a year off, I know I only want 6 months off. But I do also think that as a woman, you don't know what you're going to want or what you're going to need. You don't know what kind of birth you're going to have. You don't know what kind of mother you're going to be, especially if it's your first. You don't know if you're suddenly going to go, oh, actually, I want to be at home for 2 years or actually get me back to work. You know, we're all different. We all have this great idea of how we're going to be. And I think it's kind of a bit of a question of how long's a piece of string. It's one of those. You're like, I don't know.
But then wouldn't you just say that?
Yeah, well,
just have the conversation. That's what I mean. I wouldn't go to a tribunal if somebody said to me, when do you think you might be coming back?
But I think also people feel rushed to get back because they're scared of losing their jobs.
Did you ever feel any kind of pressure at all, Frankie, to get back into the workplace?
There was never pressure outwardly from work, you know, but we didn't have set maternity leave or anything like that.
Well, that's it. When you're not in a 9-to-5 type of a job, you don't have that.
But
freedom.
I felt the pressure in that I was in a group and how long I had off affected a group of other people. And I think that's what we think about, the same as being in an office. For me, I knew another band member wasn't going to come in and replace me, and I was hoping they weren't better than me.
I never thought of it like that.
Whereas I think in an office, I know friends that have gone, oh, God, I need to get back because they might prefer this person and I might lose my job.
Of course, we're all self-employed, so we want to get back as quickly as possible because we won't get paid.
Yeah, see, I mean, I was never put under pressure or anything, and so when I was pregnant 3 times, twice when I was doing Birds of a Feather, so obviously that affected everyone, the crew, the other actors and everything. But I was lucky because I had my mum to look after them, so I never ever gave a time to say, I'll come back next March, I'll have 6 months off or whatever. I just said, let me settle in and see how the baby is, and if the baby's OK, then I'll come back as soon as I can. And but I wouldn't have done it with a nanny. I'd only do it with a member of my family, like one of my sisters or my mum to look after the children and that. And it worked out really, really well. But no one ever said to me, when are you coming back? Because you can't say until you've had the baby.
I think it's how it's asked, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, like you were saying, like if they're like, oh, when do you reckon you might be back? Or if they're like, well, when are you going to be back? Because I need to know. And then you'd be a bit like, well, I don't blooming know, do I?
Yeah, it's the line of communication, clearly. And if that is a little bit grey, maybe it creates issues, I suppose, for certain people. But if you can speak honestly and openly, but like you say, you just don't know. Suddenly circumstances can change so quickly, as you say, if you've had a bad birth or something's gone wrong or there's an issue with a little baby, childcare. There's so many variables that actually none of us know about. And particularly with your first baby, you've no idea what you're about to get into. And suddenly you're not sleeping for 6 months and maybe going to work's the last thing you kind of need. But it's difficult then from a boss. You get it, Jane, don't you?
Come back to work for a rest.
Yeah.
Just a day off.
Exactly.
Well, that's why you're here today.
Oh, feels lovely.